Okay, so it kind of feels like there are more and more people that want to be spiritual but not religious,
Mm-hmm.
and that keeps growing. So
Yes.
why do you think that keeps growing?
Yeah, and statistically, that kind of shows, right? Like there's even like the idea of Christianity going down, the rise of the quote unquote nuns. In other words, we're not going to identify with any kind of religious belief, but we may be spiritual.
Okay.
That like statistically, that's actually a fact. And so you see the the decline of Christianity or the decline of other religions as well, not just Christianity.
Right.
And you see an increase in individuals that just kind of hold to a spiritualism. And so, yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to what I alluded to a little bit earlier of the idea of, well, I guess let me frame it in a couple of different ways. One, in a very pluralistic society that we have found ourselves in, where there's not just like one religion that's held to as like the majority religion anymore. And so, in other words, we're very open in our society to being tolerant of numerous religions and not wanting to say one is the only one that's right.
But is spiritualism a religion?
This is what's interesting to me is because I think in the practice of being spiritual, you're kind of creating your own religion, right? Because you are deciding what is true for you, even if it's just truth for you in that moment.
Okay.
There is still a truth that's being sought after in some sense. In other words, you may believe that, okay, so like an individual that's spiritual may believe, well, there's no we don't have to hold to like Christianity or to Islam or to Hinduism or to Buddhism. Like there is this higher power out there that allows us to, and we can be connected to him through meditation or through some other spiritual acts, but there's still acts that are involved. And so you've got a belief and you've got some behaviors, and therefore you've kind of created your own religion.
Okay.
And I do think that's part of the kickback a little bit against the institutional organized religion. There's individuals that are just completely have just written that off, right? Like, I don't need the organized institutional religion, and I definitely don't need the authority that comes with that. I don't need someone else telling me how I should live my life or how I should relate to God, because it's just their ideas would be the argument, right? Like, it's just their ideas of what they believe you should do to relate to God and your behaviors and your acts. I don't need someone telling me that. I'm going to be connected to God in my own way. And so usually, like you said earlier, usually it is like grabbing a few different things, right? And then that's my spiritual journey. And then along that journey, I may, let go of something and pick up something else that I've become, familiar with now. And so I think being spiritual
after a trip to South America,
or India, right, and
on a ayahuasca vacation.
Yeah,
right.
So and I think there's individuals that go to, because you have different even like temples today, that are just kind of spiritual temples, with spiritual guides, and that don't really, again, they're not connected to any kind of main religion.
That
like the idea of a spiritual guide. Yeah.
Is the spiritual guide like a spirit?
Yeah, and see, this is what's interesting to me, because it's like, for some people, again, you've kicked back against the idea of institutional organized religion with an authority figure.
And now you go somewhere where there's
an
whatever religion that you want it to be with an authority figure.
Right. Or
guiding you through it.
Right, guiding you through it. And I think for a lot of people, they go, well, they're not an authority. They're just helping me discover myself and discover God and discover the way that I connect with other people and the way that, and for some,
isn't that what you would describe yourself as doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As a pastor, that is actually what I would be doing, right?
But you get to keep all the money that everyone gives you at church. So.
Right. As if these guys don't.
Yeah.
So, you're often paying for spiritual guides. And so, but I'm just kidding. No, I don't really keep all the money. Okay. I don't even touch money. And so, but I do think I think it's an interesting thing that we have in our society that really does like reject the idea of institutional organized religion, because again, the history has said it's full of faults, it's full of errors, it's full of failures, it's full of corruption. Don't want to be part of it. Yeah, I mean, all kind of stuff, right? So like, I get the fact there's a sentiment in that vein, like, okay, I'm not going to be connected to that. And again, then you throw that in a pluralist society that says, kind of try everything. We can be tolerant of all these different religions. Yeah. And so then you
a la carte.
Yeah. And so, I think most people what they're seeking out after is more of like an experience, right?
Okay.
An experience with God, again, connecting with the divine, or it could be just connecting with the universe or the energy of the universe or the energy found in connecting with humanity. I mean, there's a lot of different ways of being quote unquote spiritual and what you're ultimately connecting with.
Cool.
Yeah. So
sounds fun.
It's definitely interesting, it's definitely interesting. And I get the appeal of it too, in the sense of like, well, I can just kind of figure out what I want to believe in that moment in time. And then
do whatever I want.
And then kind of do whatever I want and then choose to believe something different at a later point in time because that feels better. And so I think so much of it is guided by the need for individuals to find acceptance and to find meaning and to find purpose in life and to find a sense of peace. I think they are attuned into the fact that we are broken people. And that's a fact, like that we are broken. They need
a spiritual guide to help
them
guide
become
them
whole.
To fixing them.
Yeah, and to be fulfilled and to be satisfied and to find meaning and purpose or to find a higher connection, something to be connected to something greater than self,
Okay.
And so I do, again, I get the appeal of it. And it's interesting because in Christianity, we would be saying the same thing, right? We're broken. We need to be connected to the one who's not. And the idea for pastors and churches is we want to see people grow into the likeness of Christ. And what we mean when we say that is like in growing in the likeness of Christ, you're actually becoming whole. You're actually becoming who you were meant and created to be. And so in that way, it's very similar to what the spirituals are seeking.
But they're wrong and you're right.
Well, and they often have not seen that or seen that approach or even heard those words coming from churches.
Oh. They just say, don't do this and you'll be good.
That's the perspective. And sometimes that has been not just their perspective from afar, that has been their experience of going through it.